Veteran players of the Pathfinder role-playing game should be familiar with the world of Golarion, where republics spread freedom, evil empires struggle for complete control, gigantic rifts to the abyss threaten to destroy the planet, and some barbarian kings found an alien starship full of cool shit, like laser beams. The key word here being should. The unfortunate reality is that the wonderful history of Golarion is locked away in books so long and detailed that make War and Peace look like Harry Potter. The purpose of these videos will be to make this series more accessible, so the people who are sane enough to refuse to read a 300-page book on a fantasy setting don't have to miss out on elements they can use to strengthen their characters' backstories and their own role-playing. When we look at Golarion on a map, most people experienced with the setting would look at the Inner Sea region, encompassing most of the continent of Avastin and northern Garund. Think of these continents as Europe and Africa. This region is the focal point of the setting, with other parts of the world being less explored and detailed. It is this region that we plan to focus our series on. But that's not where we are going today. No. For this first video, for our first venture into this world, we need to set our focus right around here, to these random islands in the middle of the sea. Now, bear with me, this is going somewhere. In order to understand the current state of affairs in Golarion, we need to look back about 10,000 years or so, to the Age of Legends, and specifically the Aslanti. Now, the Aslanti were the first human civilization to achieve greatness, after some Lovecraftian evil fish people called the Aboleth decided to uplift humans into civilization, so that we could stop being food for the snake people. Don't worry about that part. Well, the Aslanti used their newfound intelligence to discover gods that hadn't interacted with humans before, hunt the snake folk into near extinction, unlock the secrets of starflight, and develop a culture that was basically unrivaled in philosophy, art, magic, science, and pretty much everything. Seriously, the Aslanti were so ridiculous that Paizo has stated if one were to appear in Golarion now for some reason, it would have all the human traits and a +2 to all scores instead of just 1. Basically, the Aslanti had the biggest and they were slapping it in everyone's face. As we all know, you don't get to be that amazing without attracting a few haters. Let's just see the Aboleth. We're not too happy when the people that were living in caves and chewing rocks a few millennia ago suddenly declared themselves the greatest civilization ever. Do you remember that old D&D meme, rocks fall and everyone dies? Well, that's pretty much what the Aboleth did, in an event that came to be known as Earthfall. The Aboleth called to their alien kin to shower Golarion with both space rocks and the mythical Starstone, eventually creating the Inner Sea, destroying the continent of Aslant and wiping out the Aslanti. Well, most of them anyway. A magical blacksmith / warrior named Aradin survived Earthfall, and he led the last few survivors of the Aslanti Empire to Avastan, where they settled alongside the gnomes, the dwarves, and our old friend the... Sorry, what? What do you mean the elves are gone? Did you check under the Never mind. For now, no elves. There's no elves. The first thing we should talk about with regards to the life of Aradin is the Starfall Doctrine, which was an ancient Aslanti prophecy that spoke of the last of the Aslanti Empire, destined to ascend to godhood and return to Golarion in order to bring humanity into an age of glory. A destiny that was declared to be manifest in Aradin, the hero of Aslant, who was held in near mythical status by his fellow survivors from the Cataclysm. Aradin helped the last remnants of the Aslanti form the nation of Taldor, and immediately began an attempt to salvage the Empire's vast cultural legacy, focusing especially on its unparalleled magical developments. Somehow, perhaps by utilising the greatest of Aslant's arcane secrets, Aradin gained immortality, even as many of his contemporaries died off. He was not yet divine, but he no longer aged, and he began to take a longer outlook at the time it would take to restore humanity to its previous heights. He dove into the abyss and defeated the demon lord... Does that say? Durga... He defeated the demon lord Duran Duran and explored the vast reaches of the Outer Planes, learned alien philosophies that expanded his vision and perspective, and when he returned to Golarion, he decided not only to rescue the legacy of the Aslant, but chart a new future for mankind as a whole. 12 centuries after helping to create the nation of Taldor as a symbol of human ambition, Aroden achieved realization as the prophesied last Aslanti by raising the Starstone from the depths of the Inner Sea. A single touch pulled Aroden into the alien artifact, wherein he experienced a series of simulated scenes that presented lethal martial arts trials, exhausting moral quandaries, to challenge his physical, mental, and spiritual limitations. Aroden emerged from this experience a living god, and upon the enormous island he had dredged up with the Starstone, he founded the city of Absalom, a shining beacon to attract the greatest artists, poets, architects, mystics from all of humanity's young kingdoms, and some plumber named Joe, because somebody has to clean the lavatory. From this point onward, while Aroden kept watch over his faithful and often appeared in person to solve great calamities like the rise of the Whispering Tyrant, or simply to interact with his faithful, he focused more on his domain in the plane of Axis. However, the Age of Glory, predicted in the Starfall Doctrine, was coming to a close, and humanity waited anxiously for his return and the coming golden days of mankind. Except that didn't happen. 4,000 years after the ascension of Aroden, when the day finally came, his connection to his clerics was just gone, suddenly cut off. The skies darkened, the Inner Sea was shaken with storms, an eternal hurricane called the Eye of Abendengo manifested west of Garund, razing 2 nations to the ground, and in the barbarian kingdom of Sarcosis to the north, a titanic black rift called the World Wound opened, seeping forth corruption and the demon spawn of the abyss. When every god who was questioned about the fate of Aroden refused to answer, humanity came to the sudden realization that there was only one explanation that could account for these disasters. Aroden was dead. The death of Aroden, the god of humanity, innovation, history, and destiny, marked the end of an age. His inheritor, Iomedae, took up the mantle of godhood to defend the innocent from chaos. But the broken dreams of a golden age could not be fixed. The Church of Aroden dissolved for the most part, his faithful joining other churches or becoming mere administrators of the property they still owned. His temples fell into disrepair, and with them the glorious future of mankind. This leads us to the present state of the Inner Sea. It has been 112 years since the presumed death of Aroden. Humans are still around, but things just aren't what they used to be. The once noble empire of Chelax now bows down to the Lord of Hell. The Eye of Abendengo still churns, but hasn't moved from where it spawned. The lives and efforts of hundreds of holy crusaders has managed to keep the corruption of the World Wound from destroying the world so far. This is the Age of Lost Omens, where all prophecy has failed and the races of Golarion must now carve their own destiny. But life has moved on. Every race, every nation, every person has dealt with the events caused by the destruction of Aslant and the death of Aroden in unique and interesting ways. The elven nation of Keonan, the dwarfs of the 5 Kings Mountains, the devout of Rasmurin praising a false god, and the atheists of Rahadu with their laws of man. From the free spirits of Varisia to the merciless Hell Knights of Chelax, and the witches of the nation of Erisen, cloaked in an eternal winter. The world of Golarion holds many unique places, cultures, dangers, and people that can serve as the basis for any number of stories. But I think that's enough for now. Until next time, may the Eye of Aroden watch over you.